On the 17th night, I woke to chanting. I crossed the room and pulled back the curtain. My stomach dropped. Mara's story. I was raised to believe three things without question. Blood remembers, shadows listen, and women in my family don't get to choose what they are. My grandmother used to say that last one while stirring something thick and black over the stove, her voice low and certain, like she was reciting a law older than the house itself. It isn't a gift, she'd tell me, it's a responsibility. And responsibility doesn't care if you believe in it. When I was little, I believed everything. I believed the candle flames bent toward my mother when she whispered over them. I believed the symbols carved into our cellar floor held real power. I believed my grandmother when she told me that the women in our bloodline had practiced for centuries, hidden in plain sight, and I believed I would one day take my place among them. But belief doesn't survive adulthood very well. By 23, I had started seeing everything differently. The rituals looked staged, the chants sounded rehearsed, the magic always had some explanation if I looked hard enough. A window cracked from age, not energy. Candles flickered because of drafts. Herbs cured headaches because herbs do that, not because my mother muttered over them under a full moon. I started to think the women in my family weren't witches. They were just women so desperate to feel powerful that they'd built their whole lives around a fantasy. And once that thought took hold, it poisoned everything. I'm done, I told them one October night. The three of us sat at the kitchen table where I'd learned my first incantations. My mother looked up slowly. My grandmother didn't. I'm leaving, I said. I'm done pretending. My mother folded her hands. Pretending what? That any of this is real, I said. The silence that followed felt sharp enough to cut. My grandmother finally raised her eyes to mine. You think this is pretend? I know it is. My mother's expression darkened. Careful, Mara. No, I snapped. You be careful. I've wasted enough of my life trapped in this house, listening to this nonsense. You want to spend your lives chanting over candles and convincing yourselves you control nature? Fine. But I'm done. My grandmother's hand hit the table hard enough to rattle the dishes. If you walk away, she hissed, you sever blood. Her face changed then, not anger. Pity. That scared me more than rage would have. You don't understand what you're doing, my mother said quietly. Then enlightened me. But she only shook her head. You'll come back. I laughed. No, I said, grabbing my bag. I won't. I left that night, and for the first time in my life, I felt free. I rented a tiny second-floor apartment 30 minutes away. It smelled faintly of cigarette smoke and mildew, but it was mine. No candles, no rituals, no women whispering in the next room. I got a job at a bookstore cafe downtown and settled into something close to normal. For 2 weeks, everything was perfect. Then, on the 17th night, I woke to chanting. Soft at first, low, rhythmic. I sat upright in bed. The sound drifted through my open window, women's voices. I crossed the room and pulled back the curtain. There were 7 women standing in the parking lot below, all dressed in black, all barefoot, all holding candles. My stomach dropped. My mother stood at the center, my grandmother beside her. Around them were my aunts, my older cousins, women I hadn't seen since childhood gatherings, their heads tilted upward, looking directly at my window. My mother's lips moved with the chant. The others echoed her. I couldn't hear the words clearly, but I recognized the cadence, binding ritual. I stumbled back from the window. This had to be intimidation, a scare tactic, nothing more. I forced myself to breathe. Then every light in my apartment went out. The chanting stopped, and from below, perfectly synchronized, all 7 women began laughing, not loud, not hysterical, just low, knowing laughter. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. When morning came, they were gone. The parking lot was empty. No wax, no footprints, nothing. I almost convinced myself I'd dreamed it until I found the sigil painted on my front door. The next few days were worse. I started seeing women everywhere, at the grocery store, standing at the end of aisles, watching me, on the sidewalk outside work, seated silently in parked cars, always women from my family, an aunt, a cousin, sometimes my mother herself, never speaking, just watching, always disappearing after I noticed them. I tried confronting my mother by calling her. She answered on the third ring. "Come home," she said. "What are you doing? You still think it isn't real? You're stalking me." A pause. Then, "No, Mara, we're reminding you." The line went dead. The first spell hit me 2 days later. I was shelving books when a crushing pain exploded behind my eyes, so sudden and violent that I dropped to my knees. The room spun, my vision blurred. For one terrifying second, I thought I was having a stroke. Then I looked up. Across the cafe, seated calmly with tea in her hands, was my Aunt Lydia. She smiled and slowly turned her teacup upside down. The pain vanished instantly. I stared at her. She stood, smoothed her skirt, and walked out. Coincidence, I told myself. Stress, migraine, nothing else. But deep down, panic was beginning to bloom. After that, it escalated. I'd wake with scratches down my arms, find all the milk in my fridge curdled. My shower water would suddenly run ice cold while the pipes screamed. One night, I came home to find fresh dirt scattered across my floor. And in the center of my living room, arranged neatly in a circle, were 17 stones. Then I heard laughter outside my window. I looked down. My cousins stood in the parking lot, watching, smiling. One of them lifted a hand slowly, and for a moment, I couldn't see. When my sight came back, they were gone. I stopped sleeping, stopped eating. I jumped every time my phone buzzed. The messages came at all hours. No caller ID, no text history, just one sentence each time. "Come home." I tried going to the police. The officer behind the desk gave me a tired look as I explained. "So your family is doing rituals outside your apartment?" "Yes." "And leaving harassing text messages?" "Yes." He scribbled something. "Have you considered a restraining order?" Then he glanced past me. His expression changed. I turned. I saw my mother through the station window, standing just outside. Calm, smiling. The officer's face went pale. He looked back at me, suddenly avoiding my eyes. "I'm sorry," he muttered. "There's not much we can do without evidence." I stared at him, then at my mother. She gave me the smallest shake of her head, a warning. When I looked back at the officer, his hands were trembling. That was the moment I stopped believing in coincidence. The real terror began after that. They started following me openly, not all at once, one at a time. I'd leave work and spot Aunt Lydia half a block behind, turn a corner and there'd be Cousin Elise waiting, never speaking, never approaching me, just there, always there, watching. The pressure of it was unbearable, the constant awareness, the certainty that I was never alone. I stopped going out unless absolutely necessary. But even inside, they found ways in. Whispers slipped under my door, soft chanting through the vents. One night, I woke to footsteps circling my bed, bare feet against hardwood. I kept my eyes shut, too terrified to move. The footsteps stopped. Then my mother's voice whispered directly into my ear, "You're almost ready." When I forced my eyes open, the room was empty, but there were wet footprints on my floor. I finally broke 3 weeks later. I hadn't slept in nearly 72 hours. The walls of my apartment felt like they were closing in. I packed a bag and ran. No destination, just away. I made it halfway down the stairwell before I saw them. All 7 women stood in the lobby, waiting, candles in hand. "I'm not coming back," My mother tilted her head. "Yes," she said gently. "You are. It's time we show you your true self." The candles lifted. The women began chanting as they put their hands on me. I gave in and went with them, back to the house, back into the cellar. As they all started the ritual, I tried my best to play along, to make it seem as if I had realized my mistake and was really one of them. When my aunt went to tie my hands, I took the chance to run. I shoved her back, not meaning to push her into the candles, but as they ignited the drapes, everyone panicked. I ran. I ran until I couldn't breathe anymore. They didn't appear to come after me. I heard some people talking a couple of months later about a fire, but no one was seriously injured. I had no idea how far my family would go to keep us together. I went into hiding after that and haven't seen any of them for the past 7 years. Although, every now and then, I get a blinding pain behind my eyes. It happened again yesterday, and that's when I saw a teacup turned upside down.